Welcome to this SA360 introduction today. So I'm Benoit, I'm Senior PPC Account Manager here at Croud, and I've got quite a vast array of experience on SA360 on different sort of clients, whether that's retail or B2B. And today on the agenda, we have a few elements to go through. So obviously we'll go through what SA360 is, we'll go through the interface, the features, and often a question that comes up with everyone is, what is the difference and what should I be doing on SA360 versus all the engine. So a good overview of all those elements here when we start is to understand where SA360 stands in the Google Marketing Platform stack. So SA360 will be your search engine management platform, and it will sit alongside Campaign Manager, Analytics 360. Those are the closest related that you will be using with SA360. If you've been running a programmatic activity or are looking to run, then DV360 will be the platform to use. And then looking into the rest, there's a few tools from Google that you can use, such as tag managers that can be helpful. We'll see that later when you look at implementing some conversion tags. And obviously, in terms of reporting and data visualization, there will be a direct link to from SA360 to Data Studio. So what is SA360? Well, it will be just for you a way to manage, automate, and also optimize your search engine within the same platform in real time and at scale. So currently a number of search engines are supported. So the first one obviously will be Google, Microsoft, but also Baidu and Yahoo. That also includes Yahoo Japan. And then there's also different ways to connect as well, foreign engines such as Yandex as well, if you would be looking to do this. Looking into what SA360 offer, it's a fully integrated solution across the board, and it really gives you, I think the key word to remember here is to aggregate your activity. So it will give you the ability to fully manage your campaign, create your campaign as well across all your search engine in one place and at scale. And so the platform will just help you just to go through how you can manage also budget at scales, do your optimization at scales. And with SA360, you'll be able to optimize a number of accounts, engines within the same platform towards your goal. And that's something that we'll look after in terms of automating some of that part of the search engine management. And the last point is to go into obviously reporting and getting more insight across your data. And this data will be aggregated across the engines, and that's the main benefit. So think about the organization change that you can get from SA360 here. When you look into the way that everything is tracked, there's a key things. If you have, some of you have looked into using DV360 or have been touching Campaign Manager, will be familiar with Floodlights. So the Floodlights is just a piece of code that you'll be used to track and report on conversion. So it's a native solution, which is directly included in the platform, and that's can track every single actions on your site with a level of granularity that is really important within the platform in terms of reporting the different elements. So you can obviously report on your transactions, your revenue. You can look at any elements from this using your Floodlight data. A key element also is you'll be able to group some of those actions into either transactions or actions. So let's think about, for example, someone who's looking to download a document, that would be an action, but if someone can also purchase something on your site, that will be then classified into different elements. We'll see later on some of the elements that we can look into segmenting this activity and get a bit more insight on the way that you can look at those conversions as well, especially for e-commerce and retail clients. So in order to start, the first thing to understand is how SA360 will create the hierarchy and look at how you will integrate your activity. So the first thing that you will create here will be your advertiser. And under your advertiser will sit all your different engine accounts, and obviously it will pull your account structure, so your campaign, your ad group, and your different ads, as well as all your bid adjustments. And then SA360 will then connect directly through the Floodlight that we just talked about, or any of the Google Analytics goal that you have already set up. Or if you have already this set up in Google Ads, you have the ability to pull them as well directly. And then as well, you'll have the ability with third party to look at integrating offline data by uploading them. So that can be very useful, especially for B2B type of clients. So in here, that kind of gives you an overview of what you can then do if you, for example, you get your data from Google or from a third party, but also your offline, your search engine data, your paid social data. You can take all those elements here and then create first a formula column that can look at aggregating some of those different conversion points that you're looking at. And from that, you can also look into creating a custom view, and you'll see that clearer within the interface that we're going to talk in a minute. From that, there's obviously all those different ways of filtering, segmenting your activity, labeling any of that activity across all your engines. So if, for example, you have been using Google and Bing, usually you would probably have been duplicating work, or you've been looking at labeling the same campaigns in each of the engines. Within SA360, you'll be able to do that within the same platform, and the ability as well to look into pushing that into executive reports, which is the integrated solution in SA360 to report on your activity, monitor your accounts. Into here, you can also look at exporting your data, whether to, as we said, to data studios or any third party that can connect to SA360. You can also use web query reporting if you have the ability to do so. You'll be able to push that through. And the key point across SA360 here is because of the ability of managing multiple accounts and multiple engines, you can then leverage all of the data in the same platform across the board, and then you can have a very granular insight towards the performance and make sure that you meet your goal. And the key point is you can then look at how much amount of revenue you're driving through all your engines in the same platform instead of duplicating work, for example, in the same engines. And in terms of organization, and that's really the key to understand how you can look at using SA360, it will definitely make you more efficient in the way that you will be managing your search activity across the board. Obviously, within SA360, smart bidding is a really important part of it. And then SA360 will give you the ability to run bid strategies across several accounts and looking into optimizing not only your keywords, but also a number of levers that you can play with, such as your devices, your geolocations, and also look at your remarketing list. And this will be automated within SA360 if you choose to do so. So the next session here will be looking into the interface and the key features of SA360. But before we go into the interface, we're going to look at how you start with SA360. So usually here you'll start preparing your activity on SA360. So the first thing to do is usually to create an advertiser within Campaign Manager. And after that, you'll be able to create your advertiser within SA360. If you choose to use Floodlight data, then you can use, you can add your tags on your website. And with that, you can also check some of the elements here. So you can use Google Tag Manager to do so. And once you have created your advertiser here, you can start syncing your accounts. So you'll manually add your accounts with all the different IDs, and then you'll be starting to schedule the automatic sync feature. And if you have any, you can also upload historical conversions. Bear in mind that SA360, if you start, will backdate a number of your data. If you have a Google ad tag, for example, set up, it will be automatically updating your data. Then after that, you can look at the first settings, so creating some of your labels, some of your custom columns, depending on the floodlights that you have set up. And then you can start looking into an executive report and setting up a number of automated rules and alerts. After that, you'll be looking at automating your account a bit more through a number of bid strategies. And at the back of it, you can also look at getting a bit more insight. So you can directly link, for example, your Google Analytics. And if you have a large inventory, you can look at inventory management campaigns, but also the ad builder, which we'll gonna go in a bit more details after that. So very quickly, this is the interface, starting here, highlighted here, the advertiser in your accounts. So that this is where you would access your accounts. The next element is the navigation bar, where you'll find elements very familiar if you've been using Google or Bing. In here, this will where you'll be saving your views, and your views are quite important. And the key thing to remember here is that those views will be shared across the members that have access to the advertiser. So it will not be just your solo view, it will be a shared view. So it's really handy to work collaboratively. So if you have a big team or you're working as an agency, then having this feature here can create reporting views. On the left bar, you'll see some of the bid strategies and budget management. Looking into also some of the test features, such as the ad copy and then landing page test, a number of templates and bulk operation that you can do across all your engines, the rules here that you can also create, and also looking into business data. And finally, we've got feeds, and that's if you have, for example, shopping activity, but also if you want to run inventory managed campaign. And then finally, you'll have the ability here to look into your social and search remarketing with the ability to link your social accounts if you're running a Facebook activity, for example. So the next elements here is just a quick overview of some of the formula columns, which you can use to create any combination or calculation with any of the metrics that you have. Your views, as I said, will be the views that you have, and I'll be combining all the columns and filters that you have already applied. And it will be a quick, easy way for you to come to it later. And then, sorry, looking into labels, you'll be looking into labeling your activity. And that can be a nice way to monitor your activity, but also segment it in the way that you think is the best way. The ability to make changes in boards and also schedule edits. So a very simple example that I like to use is usually you're looking to push, for example, sales ads or a new ad copy across multiple accounts. Usually you would duplicate work in Google and Microsoft advertising. Within SA360, you can then select all of those ads and choose to enable them within the same platform. So you're not duplicating work here. And then a number of rules, and I've identified here a few ones that usually we use as best practices here at Croud, just such as the sync errors. So that will make sure that, for example, all the data that is reported in here are the ones that are the most up to date. But you can also use that to monitor your spend, and it will be a very handy way to flag to you and notify you if there is any problems in your account to make sure that everything is running smoothly. So we're going to go into here a quick way to look at how you can improve your performance with the smart bidding features of SA360. So the first thing that we want to look at is how SA360 uses smart bidding to optimize your performance. And the first element here is to look at the different data points that you can take, which we have already looked at. So for example, your floodlights, your search engine data, that will be plugged into a bid strategy, and then there will be in the background the algorithm that will be running. So it will look at the different opportunities that you have based on those signals in the right. So many of them will recognize some of those signals that are already in the engines. It will take a lot of signals, and then based on that, it will react and work towards your goals. And within your bid strategy, then you'll be able to forecast and also have an overview of whether, if you challenge your bid strategy, if you're looking to increase your targets, what would be the result of this? So those are the different ways to approach your bid strategy. Most of the time, most users are looking for performance. So depending on what you want to, what your goal is, whether you're focusing on revenue or maximizing clicks or focusing on conversions, you can use all of those different ones, which are usually the ones that you will also find within each engines. And also, you can also look at whether you want to just look at visibility, or if you want just to be working towards a budget spend, which is also something available that we're going to look after this. A lot of this is also available within the budget bid strategies, which we're going to go in a bit more details later on. There's obviously a minimum amount of conversions here, but what you can then look at if you're not meeting those thresholds is to look at combining or consolidating multiple bid strategies into one. And that can be very useful in order for you to start automating your accounts and move away from manual optimization. Recently, SA360 looked at auction time bidding. So this gives the ability for SA360 to push your the floodlight data that will be sitting to Google Ads. And the auction level optimization will then look into optimizing towards each individual signals at the time of a keyword entering an auction. So this is really good because then you'll be able to see your floodlight data directly within Google Ads as well. And finally, just a few recommendations on how you should then you should use your bid strategies. So the first thing is to start with obviously a reasonable target, and also give time for the bid strategies to stabilize and make sure that you don't do a lot of changes over that period of time. Usually 3 to 5 days is the one that we would recommend not to touch the bid strategies. And you don't want to give like unrealistic targets or over constrain your bids, because that can then make the bid strategy challenging to optimize the accounts. We're going to look at the next key features, which is budget management and how you can also automate your budget management, but also your bidding. So into here, we've seen on the left, you would access this feature through the budget management tab. And this will create, you can then look into creating different budget groups and budget plans. So think how you would probably segment your activity per market, for example. So you could have here on the left the UK, and you'd have a second budget group for example, the US. And you'd have either a monthly or quarterly budget plan running along for each of those markets. And then you can look into putting a number of campaigns under those budget groups and those budget plans. Once you have done this, the budget management features will give you an optimal CPA target. So it will give you a forecast of performance and how you're pacing over the course of a month. So it will give you your actual spend and where you should be in terms of your forecast. So it's a really handy features here to look at how you can optimize your account. And the next, usually the next things that you want to do is to look at a custom budget allocations. So you can select a way to look at how you want to optimize your accounts. And usually there would be certain days, let's say you're running a flash sale for a day, you expect higher traffic. You can edit the target spend that SA360 has chosen, and you can bump that up, for example, by 30%, or on the other end, you can lower it. And so this way, it gives you flexibility to how you want to allocate the budget and how you're reporting that over a specific time period. The next element is usually you want to start optimizing your bidding and how you manage your budget, and you can do that with the budget bid strategies. So once you have created a budget group and a budget plan, you can then select the ability to automatically work towards this spend and also the goal that you will be setting for this budget group. So just a quick recap here. So you'll first create a budget group. The second one will be creating your budget plan. So this is where you would allocate your budget for the time period. You can use that here to just for reporting purposes. That's really helpful if you want to monitor your spend day on day. And then for the specific time range and conversion goals, you can set a target spend and a time range, and then you can enable the bid strategy to optimize towards those goals. And what will SA360 will do is it work toward this target spend by taking control of your campaign budget and starting to optimize your keyword bids and all the different levers that you have in your account. The next thing that we're going to look at is how we can scale activity. For many of you, if you have been running, for example, a shopping activity, and you have a large inventory, it's usually hard to scale activity. So usually you'll have every item that are continuously updated, and it's hard to keep up with your account structure to reflect those changes on the website. Inventory managed campaigns will give you the ability to do that by using a data feed, which will then be combined with a campaign, an ad group template, which can help you to run this. So usually you will start by having your feed source. If you have a retail activity, it most likely be your Google Merchant Center. or if you have a non-retail activity, it could be any file possible, so long as it's segmented and presented in the right way. It will be something that you can look into SA360. So the first step is to create the inventory plan. So you create, for example, the name, which engine you want to run it, and what is the inventory account, so which feed you're working from. The second bit is to create your campaign template. So here you'll be selecting how you want to name your campaigns, what will be the different multiplier. So for example, do you want to have one campaign for each category? And once you have done this, you can then create your ad groups. So that will give the template for your ad group. Here you'll select the name, and you can look at how you want to segment your ad group. And once you have created your ad group, you'll go down to creating an ad copy. So the ad copy can be pulling any information that is available on the feed. So you can create your either dynamic or static headline. So you could have a way of looking at different elements here. So for example, here you can look at automating with informations that you have in your feed. So it could be, for example, you could replace Ray-Ban, for example, here by the brown column in your feed to automatically create ads across the board. And you'll have a very good way to then have control. So you can look at either selecting your keywords as well in all the different elements. And with this, just a few tips on how you can look at setting up your inventory managed campaigns. So make sure that your feed is of a good quality and that it has all the information that you need. The most information that you'll have will be super helpful to build and automate your ad copy, because that'll give you all the different flexibility that you need to create your template. Then the second tip that I would give is usually start small, test, and do several iterations of your templates, of your campaigns. Once you're happy with your test, then think about how you want to, what keyword you want to rank for, and what your ads can look at. Make sure that obviously you follow the engine limits. And once you have this, make sure that you can also use the SA360 preview and all the different functions. So there's an array of functions in SA360 that can help you automate, especially for your ad copy. So the next feature that we're going to use and look at is the ad builder. So the ad builder is a way for you to look at scale, how you want to create new ad copy. So from one screen, you'll be able to create an ad template, and you can use this ad template leveraging several informations, whether it's business data, using some of the functions, attributes, and then you can get the right message. So you could have a headline that automatically, for example, update price, or give you, for example, a date. And you can then verify and check the ad copy before you push those ads live. So there's a few scenarios where you want to use the ad builder. Usually our recommendation is when you have an ad copy that doesn't really need much tailoring. It could be, for example, creating or updating a seasonal ad copy for sales where you have a generic message. So usually people get a bit confused on what is the difference and whether you should be using the ad builder or the inventory manage features. The inventory manage features is a fully automated from campaign to ad group to keywords solution, whereas the ad builder will only build a number of your ads, and it's usually a very neat features if you want to have control on your ads across the boards. Those will automatically be updated if you would update the template, and that will be pushing this in all your accounts at once without creating any duplicates, for example. So just a few examples on when you want to use inventory managed campaigns. Here, it will be, for example, any retail clients or e-commerce, or you could use a non-retail feed if you're running, for example, hotels, airlines, or real estate. So it's a full end-to-end campaign management feature. Whereas the ad builder is more for a quick implementation. You want to roll out quickly new ads to your accounts, you can use the ad builder for this. The last thing that we're going to look at is how you can get more insight using SA360. And here I will use, for example, an airline company who's trying to understand how each of routes perform. So here you've got the example of a number of destination country, or and then the number of weekly flights. And by having business data here or labels, you're able to segment your activity in a much better way than you would do in each engine. So here, usually people get a bit confused between how you use labels and business data. Think about labels of just bookmarks and notes that you want to put in your accounts. Labels are used to create DDA models. And also, if you want to use some of the search to social remarketing features, you will use labels. And it's very much for like unstructured overlapping data. Business data will be used to group campaigns, ad groups for reporting purposes. And it's very much like structured data. So it's usually more in line with top level reporting, whereas labels could be used for an account manager to simply note a few elements, for example, on their accounts. And then finally, reporting and what insights you can get. So obviously by combining a lot of data sources from Floodlight data to GA data, you can get that into a more detailed reporting within executive reports, but also extract that into Data Studio, for example. And then you're able to share those elements to more people, and you can then also schedule a regular basis report that you can then extract in different formats, depending on what is required. And then the last thing that I want to do to finish here is usually what you can do in SA360 and what you cannot do. Usually in SA360 you can do anything that you have done so far in your engine, plus a few elements here, which will be labeling and business data across a number of engines. Here you'll see also Floodlight data, inventory, managed campaign, ad builder, which are unique features to SA360. In here, you'll have features here that are only available in the engine. So any first-party data, or which will be either in market, affinity, your detailed demographic in Google, will be then managed in the engine. Any of the auction insight, for example, will remain in the engine. It's not something that SA360 can aggregate. Any specific Google campaigns, such as Gmail, YouTube campaigns, the data will be pulled through, but you'll not be able to manage them in SA360. Also, quite weirdly, some of the structured snippets, but that's related to some of the ways that different languages are set up. So SA360 is not able to put those elements in their platform. Obviously, your negative keyword list and also a number of recent features on Google Shopping, such as gallery ads or showcase ads, will appear, but you will not be able to edit them in SA360. features that are specific to Bing, obviously your conversion data from Bing. And outside of any of the campaign management, the different tools that Google or Bing will have, such as Keyword Planner, your Performance Planner, your Ad Preview Diagnosis, and obviously your billing will remain in the engine. And I think this is the last slide for everyone. So what we can do now is go through a number of questions that you have. If you have any questions, put them on the chat here. I'm going to start answering the first question, which is, can you use data-driven models in SA360? Yes, you can. So directly here in SA360, you have the option to create a DDA model, which can be an automated grouping, or if you want to set up different channels or a different way to look at this. So usually you'll have a typical scenario of having a brand generating a shopping activity. You can then look at grouping those activities with your labels and creating a DDA model from this. The next question is, do you need GA360 as well as AC360 to get the most out of it? GA360 is not mandatory to use AC360. The only downside is of not plugging GA to AC360 is that you'll probably be missing some of the GA metrics that can be useful to optimize your accounts here. But in any case, you don't have to be running on GA360 to use AC360. And also a question that I have seen just here on the chat is looking at the difference between AC360 and Google Ads. I think the key here of AC360 is the way that you can work with AC360. So some of the key features of AC360 are not available, such as inventory managed campaign, using the ad builder. Those are unique features to AC360. So it really gives you another layer of ability to first automate your account. And also, if you have several accounts, the key to AC360 is understanding that it can help you manage at scale within the same platform a number of your accounts a lot more effectively. And then because of many features in AC360, you'll be able to automate your account, you'll be able to report more effectively by using some of the key labels, some of the business data that you can create in AC360. And I think the way to look at AC360 is that all the features that you have in Google Ads are in AC360, plus a number of tools and elements that will help you manage your accounts on Google Ads more effectively. So we just got another question. Your personal opinion on where is AC360 heading in the future? AC360, from some of the information that we've received, is going to have soon, there will be, so AC360 will have a new user interface. So AC360 will receive all the different, a lot more features that it has currently, and it will be integrating a lot of the first-party data from Google Ads, for example, within the platform. So that'll give the ability to truly fully manage the accounts in AC360. AC360 is very much designed for big advertisers that has a lot of activity through several markets, several accounts. And it's really a great tool to manage effectively your marketing activity. Cool. I hope I've answered all your questions here. If not, then I thank you all for joining today.